New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller has issued a direct threat to anyone thinking of attending planned Black Lives Matter protests in Sydney. The Commissioner said that police will go to the Supreme Court to stop the protest application over fears of COVID-19 being spread amongst protesters. But Paddy Gibson from the Black Lives Matter movement says the protests will be safe. This morning he appeared on Channel 9's Today Show.
There has never been more attention given to Black Lives Matter and to what has happened to the cause that you're trying to raise awareness for. But you run the real risk of turning people against your cause by going out and protesting in a climate where people are scared, they're worried about getting this COVID-19, and they're worried that it can come from a protest like yours.
Well, I'm worried, mate, that it can come from Westfield. Every time we drop our kids off at school, we're taking a risk. Every time we go to the markets, we're taking a risk. There's community sport on the weekend. Are all of the parents who took their kids to community sport being held responsible for COVID-19 in the way protest organisers are? There isn't one example of transmission at a protest in Australia in the last few months. And I've been to many protests in this period of time. Not one, but there's plenty of community transmission that's actually happened in shopping centres. None of them have been closed down. So we say this is a double standard. We say that if we are allowed to actually space out, it's actually going to be far safer to be on the streets with our critical message, end the mass incarceration of Aboriginal people, deliver justice for the people that have been killed. We want to see charges laid. The Police Commissioner must lay charges on the guards that killed David Dungay Jr. This is a very important demand, and we believe that we can do it safely if we're facilitated.
He's a very well-spoken man, Ben, but I have to say that I do not think now is the right time to be getting thousands of protesters together because he cannot enforce social distancing. Yes, they can try and put masks on people, they can try and enforce it, but there is no guarantee when you get a lot of people together that they will do the right thing.
Yeah, look, I don't necessarily think... I think it was a lucky break, to be honest with you, that we didn't have an outbreak much bigger than what would have and could have been expected from such a large gathering. I have said this a few times on this show. I support a lot of these protests. You know, I support the message. But I think in this day and age and in this climate with COVID-19, we have to be a lot more sensible, and groups and communal areas are being limited all over the country, and that's evolving very quickly. I don't want to negate the fact that what he is trying to say and the message he is trying to get across is not worthy. That's not what I'm saying. I just think we do need to be smarter about the way in which we now need to get our messages across in 2020 through this horrific pandemic, which is COVID-19.
Robbo, is there any place for these kind of protests at this point in time? It is an important issue that's getting limelight, and that was also his point. But I just think, once again, we've got people thinking they know better than the scientists.
Yeah, we do, Rob. And it goes right up to Commissioner, the New South Wales Commissioner
Mick
there,
Fuller.
because Mick Fuller, that's right, thank you, Dale. He was saying that, sorry for calling you Dale.
Did you just call me Dale?
Because it was a genuine
whatever
thanks,
you
Dale.
say next, as intelligent as it might be, we're all thinking, did he just call Rob Dahl?
It matters not, because it
People
was actually
ask
really
me
good thing, 'cause-
all the time about you two. It is so weird. Like, literally, I get asked more questions about your Ernie and Bert relationship than any other person I've ever met in my entire life. Anyway, keep going, darlings, or whatever it is that we
Love it.
referring to ourselves
There's
as.
plenty of McKnight. You'll be all right.
Oh, my God. We even heard Amanda groan then.
I don't think I was
I think
sleeping
my
in my
neighbour
bed
that's cutting a
tonight.
tree down, I think, just groaned. Anyway.
But you're talking about, if I could bring it back to the point here, Rob, you're talking about the people ignoring scientists. And basically, Mick Fuller is guilty of that as well, because he was saying that the BLM protests in Melbourne actually, sent off one of what they're calling the hotspots. It actually didn't. The Victoria Chief Health Minister has come out prior to this and has again reiterated that the people who attended the Black Lives Matter protests in Melbourne a month or so ago are not part of, the hotspots that are in those towers. There's no connection to them.
There were two cases in the
but there's no
protests,
connection.
weren't they?
But yes, but there's
it's
no
lucky break.
connection. No, there's no connection. We can go back and watch it. There's no connection.
No, I think you're right. I'm just confirming that there were two cases.
Yes. There were two cases, but they weren't connected. It just wasn't a class.
It wasn't the beginning of a cluster like we're seeing at the Crossroads Hotel in
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Liverpool
yeah.
and things like that, in Casula.
Yeah, that's right. So you'd think, though, if they were to blame, that they would come out quite quickly and say, look, we told you don't protest.
Yeah.
What I find really clear and really good leadership is that they're going, well, yes, there were thousands of people who were there, who weren't maintaining social distancing, who weren't wearing masks. But you know what? It actually didn't really create any clusters
Is
or
that
anything like that.
good luck, or was that good design? Like, if that's
no,
the
we
case,
saw the
shouldn't the
pictures.
protests go ahead then?
Yeah, well, we saw the pictures though. So this is what has been the problem with COVID-19 since the very bloody beginning, is because people in authority, politicians, police, all that kind of thing, are saying one thing, then someone else says another thing, then the Prime Minister says another thing, and then the Premier says another thing. That's the problem. It's very difficult for, I think, to have any kind of credibility if the police commissioner is saying, well, we're not going to have what happened with the Black Lives Matter protests in Melbourne. We're not going to have that in Sydney. What are you talking about? It didn't happen in Melbourne. So
Yeah.
is that scaremongering? Like what? Again, that just erodes the confidence that we already is very fragile, don't you think, with what we listen to from our politicians, because we get different messaging all the time from everyone.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo.